strategically puts our puzzle pieces in place so we can see the bigger picture of things.
In that same path of my higher self, which
so when you're reinventing yourself, sometimes it feels really scattered.
Of no's. If I would not overcame being a teenage mom,
is the person like it's $1 million Norma, right? Like $1 million Norma.
What your boundaries are and communicating with that.
What is she doing that I'm currently not doing?
And she went through a lot of shit too, right?
Right.
Because we don't really think about that. What she was dealing with at that time, right? And my mom was
like if I could open my purse, is that if I would not overcome domestic violence.
A Rican thing?
I guess she loves.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello. With my little squeaky voice.
Oh my God. It's going to be okay.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
It's going to be all right. We shall survive.
I just love, you know what I love? I love the laugh. You know, like, because when you're sick and it sounds weird, so it's like, like it's such
you just go extra for no reason. For no reason.
I'm like, oh man, the kids are making fun of me here.
Oh, because you got a raspy voice?
Yeah.
That's messed up, man. It be your own people.
It's really mean, right? Like, damn. So I call for Roger in the morning. They're like, Roger.
You're silly.
Oh man, but today's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. Last week we had a really good topic, and people, you know, they were very opinionated, and I love that. Let me tell you something. I feel like if you're not getting people commenting or having opinions on the topic, then maybe it wasn't such a great topic, even though they're all great. But last week, talking about abortion, is it a luxury or is it your own choice? Like that was a big one. I think I still was like muzzling it over. But this week we got childhood trauma and the different kind of bullet points around this. So gaslighting, mental abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse. Like what really does that mean? And how has it manifested in our lives, right? And many people's lives on an everyday basis. Listen, in this dating pool, I could tell who had child abuse or who has some type of PTSD around there. I'm like, damn, man.
Yeah,
nobody's working on themselves. People are really not working on themselves that much. And I know it's hard.
Well, is it that they're not working on themselves, or is it that they don't realize that they need to work on themselves?
Ooh, yes. That is also very true. Because it becomes your normalcy.
Yeah. You got a lot of people claiming that, oh yeah, I've been alone for a long time. I've been having fun and I do whatever I want. That's not working on yourself. Like if people think that working on yourself means, oh, I go out to drink by myself. I go out to a movie. I go here, I go there. I take care of myself. I pay my own bills. Nobody helps me. That's not you taking care of yourself, honey. That's just you doing you.
Right. That's just like, it's like you're ignoring the problem. Like, it's like if you're like, it's a good example of that. Like, you know, oh, I just haven't gone, you know, to people that like are sober. I think it's a little hard for them to be around people that are drinking, things like that. And so one of the ways to do it cold turkey is to kind of like pull away completely. Yeah. But the real test is when you do go to an event and there is liquor, there is substances, are you okay with not consuming? Or do you have control? I think that is the real, you know, the real
test. And I can attest to that because I am currently going through the whole being somewhat sober in public settings and all this stuff. And I can personally say that I don't have any kind of personal control. When tempted, I will drink. And so, but what has changed for me is that I know how to now say no after one drink versus before. I would just, in my own brain, I would be like, who cares? It's just 2 drinks. Oh, it's just 4. It's just 6. It's just 8.
I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
I'll be fine. Yeah. So.
No, but it's crazy. It's how it is. And one of the things is like that. A lot of people think, to what you're saying, like healing is that, like completely ignoring it. Like I'm absolving of it. I'm just not gonna do it. I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna put myself in the situation. But the moment someone triggers them or says something to left field, where sometimes it's unbeknownst to them, it's like this little this little triggering moment, and something just comes up and you lash out. Boy, do you understand, or you should understand, that you have not healed from that. That is not you healing. Healing actually hurts. Healing hurts. Healing hurts.
It does. And that's what people don't understand, because, for example, if you're honest with yourself, then you understand that you sometimes carry the weight of the culpability on your shoulders. Or then you come to terms of the things that were completely out of your control, and you have to understand that it was not your fault because you were a child, if we're talking about childhood trauma. So it takes a lot of self-recognition and self-work in order for you to really determine hey, this is what I need to heal from. That's one. And then to make the appropriate steps to heal from said identified suffering. So it does take time. It takes time. And it's not just about, hey, let me go grab a drink. It's also about, let me go tap into a hobby that I haven't done in a long time. Let me rekindle my own self relationship with myself. And that takes a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of effort. So yeah.
It really does. It really does. How could you what's an example of you thinking because this is a good one? This is I feel like this topic goes around with everything in our lives, and you really can see it when people aren't healed, and not to their what is it, giving them credit, because it's hard. There's things that I could not run away from, you know what I mean, that I couldn't do nothing because I was a kid. So it's not you put yourself in that situation, you could have left. No, you're not an adult, so I couldn't have done anything, right? But what I can do now as an adult is make a difference and change the patterns of my life. But what is something that you feel because I feel like gaslighting is one of those it's like narcissism in a way, where it's it plays it teeters with a line, and you're is that
gaslighting? In order to be a narcissist, you have to gaslight,
right?
So
is that
it goes hand in hand.
Of that?
Huh?
What's examples of true gaslighting? Because I feel like sometimes it's done so beautifully that it's
So I don't want to out anybody here, but an example of gaslighting is, in my experience, and there's a story in our book that's called The Barren Godmother. And I can attest to that type of childhood trauma and being gaslit, because the memories that I had about being kidnapped were often passed off as, oh, you're just having a nightmare. So the memories and the dreams that I would have would often get matched with, oh, you're just having a dream. That's just a nightmare. And it wasn't until it was finally confessed, because I think I have had the dream for years now, the very same dream with the very same detailed closet and the same details. Everything was the same. It was just a repetitive dream. And it wasn't until somebody confessed the truth and said, oh, that's not a dream that you're having. It's a memory. And I said, a memory of what? And then when they finally said, oh, you don't remember you got kidnapped? It was like my whole life flashed and came to that moment. And I was finally able to connect the dots with this damn nightmare, and everything resurfaced, if you will. But that was being gaslit for years. You're talking about almost 5 years of being told that the daydreams and the dreams and the fear of being left alone and all that stuff, I was just a dramatic little girl.
Wow, that's crazy. That's really crazy. I feel like gaslighting to me in a definition is that you put gas to and you make it bigger, but it can be bigger in not a negative way. I think that's something, at least for me, when I was trying to understand what's real gaslighting, gaslighting is not only in a negative connotation. It's not just like, oh, you put more gas and the fire gets bigger. But the fire can get bigger in, like, how when you're like excited and you're in your romance and you're all bubbly and stuff, and you're feeling like you're super like, I'm in love with this person. This person's it, like, because they're adding so much like extra love and gifts and excitement, and they're saying all the right words, and you're just like, oh my God, like it can't even get any bigger than this. It can't get better. No, they're just adding more fuel to the fire. And what happens is it kind of scrambles your mindset, and it makes you think that's appropriate behavior, or that isn't appropriate behavior. Like, it depends on the situation, right? So I think that's one of the things that's really like sketchy, and people have to be really careful with that, because, and sometimes I think that I've seen it even done in I'm not going to say positive way, but like in a way where it's like that person doesn't know any other way. So they just like, you're trying so hard, but that's also you being unhealed. They're trying so hard to like attain love that they're doing the most, but it's not really genuine. And so it's not sustainable for the long run. And they can't be that good friend. They can't be that best friend that does it all and is there every single weekend. And oh my God. And I cook and I clean. And then then you don't do it again.
Yeah.
Or you're not there, so it's applicable not only for romantic relationships, but for everything, for childhood, because you start learning these behaviors and you think that you just gotta like throw fuel to the fire, when in actuality is just a response to how you learned that you got to do things, but then you can't keep it up.
Yeah, for sure. Childhood trauma, however, manifests itself in different areas. And I think one of the questions that I put here in the commentary is, does childhood trauma give you PTSD? That's one. And two, does the PTSD manifest itself similar to that of a soldier coming home from a war? Right? Because the PTSD of a soldier coming home from a war is usually, you have triggers. Sometimes just being in a certain space or being overwhelmed can trigger us. And yes, I say us because I'm a veteran. For anybody listening out there, I'm not talking about shit that I don't know about. But the PTSD that you experience after coming home from a deployment and things like that, I think is similar in sense, but the difference is that for me, my PTSD related to the military is triggered through certain events, either stress, like a high stress area, a very public area, a very packed area. Nighttime triggers my PTSD related to the military. So it's a lot of very specifics, like bells and whistles trigger my PTSD from the military. But when it comes to childhood trauma and PTSD from childhood trauma, it's a little bit different because my PTSD from a childhood trauma only manifests itself with relationships. Yeah.
Wow. And why do you think that is?
I think that when you're a child, at least from what I've learned from psychology courses, is that when you're a child and you develop core memories, you're still developing who you are as a person up until I think it's the age 5 or something. I don't know. They've changed that age range for so many times at this point. It used to be till 3. Now I think it's 5 years old. And in those moments of you feeling it, you have to feel the security of your parents. You have to feel love. You have to feel safety in order for you to develop correctly. You also have to be, you have to eat well. And it's just like a whole slew of health things that have to be correct during that time so that you are not, so that you don't suffer any kind of mental delays or emotional delays or any kind of milestones. And I think that because during that time span, we are developing motor skills, we are developing how we see people, how we interact with people, and we're developing a relationship with our parents and acknowledging them as parents. I think that when you suffer trauma during those ages, and then when you're fine tuning those skill sets, those soft skill sets, into like 6, 7, or 8 years old, now you've developed them with some sort of trauma that either caused you to feel extreme fear, or mistrust, or perhaps paranoia of being left alone. Whatever it is that it triggered during that age, it carries with you because now you're developing with that. And so then you carry that same fear of neglect and that same fear of not having enough love or whatever that you experience during those developmental ages, then carries out through your teenage years, carries out through your young adulthood. And until you don't realize, like, wow, why do I have this fear? Until you don't question yourself and say, this is my third failed friendship. And this is my third failed friendship because of me and X, Y, and Z, right? Until you don't come to that self-realization, you're not going to acknowledge that you have a problem. You're definitely not going to try to work on it on yourself either.
Right. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things. Introspection. Like if you do not go within and like say, okay, wait a minute. This is like the third, the fourth friendship, the fourth relationship, whatever it is, like, and things have not changed. It might be because of me. There might be something that they're doing, because we can't just take all the blame, because there's always some type of like, everyone could have done a better, each party could have done a better job. But maybe there's something that you're doing. Maybe and it's not always necessarily something completely bad. It could just be because of the things that you lack, like kind of like what you said, the actual skill of knowing your boundaries, your standards, knowing what's right and wrong. Like just because your mom and dad did it doesn't mean that it was right. They're just human beings. They did what they could with what they had. So, disrespecting you verbally, physically, that doesn't mean that it made it okay. It just means that it's what happened to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to decide what is it that feels good or what's appropriate and okay, and then move forward with that. And if not, then work on that and really heal through that, because that is what's going to cause you the PTSD. Like it's not, I'm sure that you can 100%, and you're probably the best person to say yes or no to this, like PTSD is not something that's just, and I thought this when I was very, very young, that PTSD is only something that comes to those that are, serving or, no, it's something that can come to anyone. Sorry, my voice is cutting out.
Actually, all women who give birth or experience birth have PTSD. And it's because giving birth is such a traumatic event to the body and the mind and everything else, that you end up with PTSD. And some women, it manifests itself as postpartum depression, and sometimes they're a danger to themselves and the child. So it is different. PTSD across the board is not just something that that is exclusive to one style of trauma or not, which is why I'm making the difference between a soldier coming back home versus childhood trauma that perhaps established a traumatic event with emotional space or something like that, right? Because if your childhood trauma deals with, for example, let's say that you had an absent parent, and that parent came in and out of your life, whenever they chose, and you just kind of left waiting, right? You end up developing this fear that people are just going to come into your life and leave.
Yes.
Right. And so what happens with people like that is that when you get older and you get into relationships, you try your hardest. These are your love bombing people. These are your people that try the hardest to keep you by you and to keep you in their lives because of that childhood trauma that they're now expressing their post-traumatic stress related to it. Which is, again, that's what I find interesting about this topic, is the fact that it's almost like you are your own enemy in your own story, because you have been left unhealed for so long. And as a child, you weren't taught any different, or you didn't feel any different. So now whatever emotional connection that you have suffered with your parents, you're going to end up carrying it into adulthood, into adult relationships, into friendships, and into romantic relationships where you have a lack of trust or a lack of support, or you feel like they're just going to be completely absent the entire time that you're with them. So you need validation over and over again. So all these things, they do manifest themselves. They just appear different versus, for example, me, I have PTSD with bells and whistles because I was also a firefighter in the military, and you are trained to respond to those bells and whistles so fast, even if you're asleep. So at times I find myself that if I hear sirens or I hear whistles being blown, I end up getting into a state of like adrenaline, and like an adrenaline rush hits me. And
Wow.
it's I'm expecting to jump and go somewhere, but I'm not going anywhere.
Right. That's crazy.
So,
And it's something so like
physical
sensitive.
response,
Right.
like
That's
a trained
okay.
dog.
That's so crazy.
Yeah,
It's
blow the whistle, and I'll tell
crazy.
you how high I'll jump.
Oh my God. But it's very interesting. And it's to me, you know, it's I wouldn't say, you know, all the way sad. Everyone has a different response to it, but it can be very sad because sometimes you're like, it's so evident. Like how we started the conversation. It's so evident that there's so many people in this world that are going through with one way or the other, something that happened to them that really scarred them in a way. It's a scar, you know?
Mhm.
And unfortunately, it's like a bad ketchup stain on a white shirt. Like oh my God, who hates that? Everyone hates that. This like, you wore this little shirt and you look so cute and your outfit looks great. You got some soy sauce or some ketchup
Soy
on
sauce.
it.
Yo, that New York came out so strong, bro. Some soy sauce. All right, continue.
I can't stand you. Hold on.
You know what's hilarious? That I have been laughing about that because I'm like, yo, I really try so hard to hide my accent because I have a Spanish accent and then I have a New Yorker accent. And so I try so hard to hide that shit when I'm at work because I work around predominantly white men. And so they kind of look at you funny when you sound funny. And so it's like I try to articulate so hard to get rid of my New York accent and my Spanish accent. But every so now and then, if I get stressed out or I'm like excited or whatever, it just kind of
It comes out. You can take the girl out of the Bronx, but you can't. You can take the girl out of the Bronx, but you're gonna take the Bronx out the girl.
That's right. Book it down, baby. Book it down.
But
yeah.
so like I was saying, let's get back to seriousness. The ketchup on the shirt, right? You wash it and wash it out, and you can still see it. You can still see it. You damage that shirt. It's done, right? Like now you can still rock it, but you gotta know that if you look kind of hard, it's still there. And that's exactly what healing is. Like it's never gonna go away. Is that you know how to manage it better now. That situation, that physical abuse, the verbal abuse, the things that happened to you in your childhood. Now you know how they manifest in actual relationships. Now you know how they manifest even in work. Like sometimes people think, oh, I don't like authority. I don't like people telling me what to do. It's just probably because you were berated so much.
Yeah.
Maybe, just maybe, you would be rated so much as a child. You would be rated as a human being or in a relationship that you feel like you don't like authority. And it's not that you can't take direction. It's just that you feel like someone is talking down to you.
Right.
So therefore, it just kind of manifests that way. And so now you're snippy. You have an attitude. You're not the most compliant when it comes to work stuff. When they do the reviews, the annual reviews, they're like, you could take direction. You don't take direction very well, but it's because you have to dig back. You got to dig and see like what exactly happened that made me act in this way. Now, here's what I'll say. I'll say this also. That is not an excuse because I hate when people say to me, oh, but I didn't receive that type of love. Oh, but I didn't know. Oh, but I just, that
but
happened.
you know now.
But you do now. Because when you were a child, there was nothing you can do. When you were getting your badonkadon beat up by whomever, right? It was hard for you to like release yourself. But when you knew, you knew. And now that you know, it's your responsibility to get the help that you need, heal yourself, and be a productive person in society, because we don't need another person that's really like,
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it just depends because it's like, I think that, sometimes your environment also breeds you to be a certain way. Yes. So like if you have friends and family members that are around you and they're just constantly just, ¿cómo te digo? Yes, people around you.
Oh, yes.
Oh, it's their fault. It's not your fault that the relationship is failing. Oh, you didn't do anything wrong at work. They just suck. They don't appreciate you. Instead of being honest with them and be like, bro, you got a problem. you know?
Yes.
And so sometimes even that breeds to where you assume that however you're reacting to situations is the correct way because it's being affirmed by people around you. Which is also the reason why when you leave the military and you come back home, things become very apparent that half of the shit that you did in the military was wrong. And that's actually what brings up most of the traumatic stuff up, and becomes triggering because it's not allowed or acceptable in regular society. Even hearing people comment on what they think that certain crimes are, and then you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I did that for the United States. Like, yeah. So all of that can cause trauma in itself too.
Yeah.
And then, you know, similar to being a child and all of a sudden you turn 18 and your parents are like, oh, you got to get out. And then they push you out into the world and you're just like, I don't even know how to pay bills. What is rent? What is a light bill? Oh my God, that goes on my name. Like, right, what is life, you know? And so I think that your environment also fosters whether you can grow out of that or not. So,
Yep.
So it just depends. Honestly, it depends on what is your environment, what are you trying to achieve, what is like what exactly are you seeking out of people and to gain out of people. And I think that if we maintained a solidarity of saying, like, you know what, no matter what I go through and no matter what relationships I have, I'm gonna learn from it, then I think that would be more like a more open segue to being able to heal from certain things. But I think it's the fact that we don't walk into relationships wanting to learn. We walk into relationships either attempting to control or attempting to have or take. And I think that hinders our progress personally as well.
Hot damn, girl, say it for the people in the back.
I can't repeat it. All right.
Wow. That's crazy. That is such a good line. We walk into relationship, and what is it again? Trying to control. Wow, that was deep. That was deep.
I don't know what I said.
It's true because the thing is that people have. Sometimes people walk into, oh, I just pulled out a gray hair for no reason. Look at that. My mistake. That's crazy, right? 40 years old and got gray hairs.
Yeah, let it go.
Walk into relationships, friendships, and things like that already with a narrative of what this is going to look like. Instead of walking in with an open mind of what am I going to get from this? Like in more like, how can I add value to that person? And how can that person add value to me? How can I learn from this person? Because there's so many things that you have healed from that is now like, wow, like that's so crazy. Something you mentioned earlier was the book. The book. Now I've known Jamie for a plethora of years. Like, you know, so many things that I've known of her. Now we had gaps where we were kind of disconnected, and not because our friendship died or anything. It was just life. Life takes you in different journeys. But through the book, I learned so much more about Jay and everything that she has been through and the sad points. And I know that she probably got more introspection to like, what have I been through?
Right.
And it's crazy because if you push it, and if I would have gone with a narrative of like, I just want to be her friend because maybe she's going to help me, you know, make this business pop off, or maybe, you know, we're going to make money together, or maybe she'll just, you know, looking where she's going to give me versus how can I add value to her and how can she add value to me with this open heart and open mind of learning and always remaining. One of my best, I think, characteristics is I'm a perpetual student of the game.
Yes.
I will never know more than the next person, not even of my son or toddler. There is always a perspective that you can look at and you can kind of turn it and see where there's a way for you to learn something better. There's this awesome movie I saw many moons ago, and it literally blew my mind because he was like, cut the cake into 8, I think it was 8 slices, and he cut it like in all, 8 ways. And then the father goes, all right, can you cut it anymore? He's like, no, you can't. Like, it's done. And he's like, no, you're not looking at it in all the ways that there's a possibility for you to slice this or, look at it in a different perspective. And he's like, if you turn you can cut it right through the middle, and then that's a cut. And so it was very interesting to me to like see that in a different way, because everyone goes into relationships in this mindset of like me versus we. How do we make this? This is the problem. The problem is I have PTSD. The problem is I have childhood trauma. The problem is I don't know how to properly articulate all of my feelings or do this task. How can I, right, put myself and what I have to where you can teach me or we can learn together and we fix the problem, right, as a unit, not just as a like it's your problem, you fix it. But it also has to take complete accountability. You have to know that there's something up and that you have to work on it in order for you to start even addressing it.
And that's my thing. I think that a lot of the times it lays there. The key to progressing out of this kind of behavior or trauma is from it manifesting itself is truly to like come across that type of environment where it hits you. Like for some people, it's failed relationships. Yeah. Some people, they have to get fired from a job before they realize like, maybe I do suck.
Yeah.
In this leadership role, maybe this is not how I should, tackle this situation. Or same thing with the marriage. Sometimes it takes losing somebody to understand that cheating is not okay. And it sounds trivial because you would think like, oh, but if you don't want it done to you, then you shouldn't do it forward. But it isn't always that black and white. Right. Because, for example, especially when it comes to gender roles, in some societies and in some subcultures, in gender roles dictate what's okay for a man and a woman to do. So we can sit there and say like, oh, well, he should have known that cheating was going to ruin his marriage. Not if he was raised watching his father cheating on his mother and his mother taking that.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So it's not always that black and white. What we learn to be okay or right isn't always the same case. Now, what that particular person in that scenario didn't learn is the suffering that his mother was going through, because his mother probably hid it in order to make things go smooth.
Right.
So then it's not until he then loses his family for cheating or repeating the behaviors that he saw his father doing that he then realizes like, oh, snap, this is not acceptable at all. So I think that our environment dictates a lot what we can see or acknowledge for ourselves as us doing it wrong or not.
Right. No, it's totally true. And it's the really like honing in on that point in order for you to know that you have to change something. And then, like you said, the product of your environment, a lot of times if you have not been removed from that environment or you have not identified that there's something up, kind of like that word that goes around like generational curses. Like if you're still doing all that, and you still in that pattern, you're not going to change the pattern, right? The pattern is the pattern and you're going to do it again and again. And sometimes here's another thing that I realized, even with myself, I don't curse at my kids. I don't yell at them to the point where it's like I'm trying to berate them or disrespect them or, make them feel less than, because that's what I grew up on. And I love my parents. But that's just what they knew to do. And they thought that was the right way to do it. Like, because I said so. You do what I do, I don't do that because I feel like, at some points they drive you crazy and it's like, listen. But for the most part, I try to make it so that it's a conversation, make it so that it's like understandable, so their voices are heard, so they don't feel belittled and they don't cut down their voice, right?
Yeah.
Down the line, they're going to be terrible communicators. They're not going to be able to express how they feel, why they feel that, why they do things. But at the same time, their environment needs to change. Someone has to break that cycle so that that generational curse ends with them. And when you're small, when you're still young, it's hard to break that. But when you do find out or you do see that emotional, psychological effect has really played a factor in your life, you have to remove yourself. That means eliminating friends. That means eliminating relationships, no matter how long it takes you. Because I know sometimes it's like, oh, it's easier said than done. It is. It can be. Trust me. I've been in a pattern where I didn't even know that I was being gaslit. I didn't even know that what real narcissism was, what control was. Because sometimes, they're like, oh, but you made me mad. And I'm just like, but I heard that before. And you don't even know, because it's so crazy how PTSD is that and trauma, that it's not something like a little voice that comes into your head like, oh, I remember when I was 8 years old that happened. It's something it's like it's automatic, and like your brain just goes and you're like, yeah, you're right.
Because it's almost like a muscle memory response to things.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're right. Yeah, I made you mad. So he bought me that bag. And it's cool now. We're fine now. So it's like you literally talk yourself into this shit. Like, and it's crazy. But it's like that with anything in life. And so you have to be really, really, really strong-minded and really work on figuring out those things and seeing them. And I feel like just the way that happens super easily, and it's like a click in the brain, it also happens that way where you feel like it's a feeling. Everyone gets it. It's almost like this little like feeling in your heart where it's like, that actually didn't feel good. That I don't know why. I don't understand why, but I didn't really like that. Like, and so that's the feeling you got to hang on to, and this is coming from a non-professional. I'm not certified in psychology or anything like that, but I know for a fact firsthand that a lot of times we know, especially as women, but human beings in general, we get this like feeling in our hearts and our minds where like, but we dismiss it. It's that little like silent moment where you're like, I don't know. But we dismiss it and we keep it pushing versus saying, no, wait a minute.
Yeah.
How does that feel that way? And I have these aha moments at the age of 40, the tender age of 40. I have these aha moments all the time with Jamie. I literally will send Jamie a voice note and I'm like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm telling her about the situation. And I'm like, girl, it's girl time right now. I got to tell you, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm talking through it and I'm just like, oh, shit. Really? That's because, and it really like takes me back to like, that's why, but it takes a moment. You got to sit in the feeling. And I'm going to say it again. You have to sit in the feeling. It sucks. It sucks. But you have to sit in the feeling and really digest it and really like work it out. Journaling is one of the things that I've advocated forever. I know Jamie journals as well. We have a journal that's going to be coming out very soon in 2025. So look out for that. Because it's one of the things where if you don't know, then no one else will know. You literally, it is your responsibility. 100%. It's nobody else's responsibility to really work on the situation. So if you're going through PTSD, mental health, abuse, or anything like that, it is your job. Get help. That is my biggest advice. Get some type of help. Because otherwise you're just going to have this perpetual cycle of stuckness.
And it's crazy because even though I got help early on for a lot of things, because like even during my mom and my dad's breakup and all that stuff, my mom got us psychological help.
Right.
And then as a young teenager, I sought help on my own and got psychological help as a teenager. As a young adult, I got help as well. I think though that there was gaps between the times that I got help, like years gaps. For different things, but I think that even getting the help was still a challenge, and it's still, my PTSD still manifested itself enough to hinder relationships and enough for me to create unhealthy relationships when it came to my childhood trauma. And so
why do you think that is?
I think that at times, even this is hard to explain because a lot of people don't understand this too much. When somebody says, oh, I was like, for example, SA abuse as a child, for example, people are like, oh, well, how come you're saying something now and you're like 18 and this should happen when you were 3? Well, for one, unfortunately, for that type of stuff, sometimes it takes a little bit to realize that that was wrong. And that's the reason why your body flinches when somebody comes near you in a vulnerable state. And so it's not as black and white as we like to think it is.
And the courage you have to have.
You have to have a lot of courage. For me, I have a response that I clinch. So for a long time, I self-medicated in order to be able to have romantic or privacy moments. I had to be inebriated because I couldn't possibly allow somebody to touch me or get close to me sober. And it took me a long time. At first, I used to think that it was because I grew up in the Bronx, and I was like, oh, nobody in the Bronx likes being touched. Everybody walks around, protective of themselves because of the environment that we grew up in. But then through therapy, I realized that the reason why I clenched was because of childhood, SA. So that was, for me, it was very eye-opening. And the only reason why I even questioned it in therapy was because when I got into a relationship with a guy, young, really early on, I think I was like 19 or 20 years old. That person made it an issue, the fact that I would flinch. Nobody else before him even gave a shit or even whatever. But that particular person was like, that's not normal that you react like this. It's almost like if you don't want to do it. I'm like, yes, I do. And it's like, yeah, you're saying that, but your body's not saying that, And so, even something like that, where you think like, oh, well, you should have known that was wrong. Well, I didn't, because it's not like there's a whole group of 100 people passing judgment and saying, that right there is incorrect. You should have done
Can you imagine? Like in the moment, you got a crowd of people like,
right.
that
So
movie
you don't always know how people think.
No.
Like, oh yeah, no, you should have known. No, you don't.
No.
You freaking don't. Just like I didn't think when I first left the military, and I got my psychological evaluation when I left, I personally didn't think I had PTSD. I didn't think there was anything wrong with me. To me, I had the mindset that every other soldier has, which is PTSD is for wussies.
Oh my God.
I didn't have that experience. I didn't, and I sat on this high and mighty horse. I was fine. I was normal. I didn't have any issues. And then I had a psychological evaluation, and literally almost every single way that I responded to every single situation or problem that I was confronted, it was the wrong way.
Shoot. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Which that initial interview ended up leading to like 5 other psychological evaluations.
What the fuck?
Which I shouldn't be laughing about, but I'm just saying that goes to show you that you don't always know, because you just don't. No. I went into that interview like a cynic. I was like, oh, here we go. This shit is so annoying. Why do I have to go through this? I don't want to do this. You guys are wasting my whole day. Whoa. And then I sat there and I was even being rude to the psychiatrist herself, because I was just wanting to get it over with. So every time she would ask a question, I would just answer and be like, yeah, sometimes I don't know.
Get out. Yes. Yeah, no.
And then as we're progressing through the interview, and she keeps asking deeper and deeper question. At one point, I was like, this is kind of like a weird ass question. Why is she talking about honking cars? Everybody's annoyed by that shit. So it's like, I just like, whatever. So at the end of it, she was like, so I'm going to recommend that you get evaluated again. She's like, because I don't think that you're okay all the way. And I was like, what? And she was like, no, it's normal. We see this a lot with you guys. And, she's a military evaluator. So she's, referring to that experience. And I was just like, there's nothing wrong with me, lady. Like, leave me the hell alone. And she was just like, when I told her, I was like, no, there's nothing wrong with me. I don't have any problems like some people have. She was like, oh, so you wanting to kill people on the road when they honk at you is not normal. She was like, the whole not sleeping for 2 days straight, that's not normal at all. And I was like, yeah, but we all do it, so it is normal. And she was like, no, we all don't. Only no. And she just kept like looking at me like, bitch, you're crazy.
Let's not make this normal.
No, it was like a bunch of stuff. So when I left that interview, I was like in shock. And I was like, whatever. She doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. So I brushed it off, right? And like 2 months later came my next appointment, because that's how the VA works. You never get appointments right away. And I go to the second interview, and then that lady has even more shit to say. And I was like, oh my God, am I really crazy?
Oh my gosh.
And so it wasn't until that second interview that I really started paying attention and was like, maybe there is something wrong with me. And then I started like really doing a whole lot of self-reflection with like instances that had occurred while I was drinking, or interactions that I had with people that perhaps didn't go so bright,
Right.
and things like that. And I started to really self-reflect and was like, oh shit, like
Maybe there is something off.
yeah, maybe there is something wrong. But it was like that. It was a lot of that self-realization when somebody, presented me with that kind of stuff and was like, this isn't normal.
Yeah. And I think that's the turning point. I think that's the difference. See, because when people tell me, like, I know someone that I just recommended, I was like, I think you need therapy. And I was like, and this comes from the depths of my heart. Like, I mean it in the best way. This is something I have taken therapy multiple times, and other times I'm just like, that didn't work. Like, I literally felt like I was teaching you. If I'm honest with you, because I work so much on myself and I do personal development, and I was like, I'm just coming here like to talk to somebody. For that, I just talked to one of my homegirls. But then there's only been one occasion where it was like I felt like that person really dug, kind of like what you're explaining, and that person dug and made me then connect the dots. Like, oh, that's why. Because therapy. See, here's the thing. Therapy is like a good doctor. I don't know about you guys, but I don't just sit on one doctor. I know people are like, oh, but I've had the same doctor forever. But is he a good doctor though? Like, don't stay with someone. It's like a bad relationship. Like, I mean, we've been here 25 years, might as well. Like, that don't mean that you should stay. Like, longevity doesn't mean good. You gotta be with someone or have a good doctor that you really do love, that you feel like they listen to you. A therapist that is really digging in. Now, they're supposed to be the expert, but you also know you're the expert of you. There's things that you need to tweak and need to work on, but not all therapists, and I say this, from the kindness of my heart, not all therapists are the greatest therapists. You have to know where someone can really like target the things that are really bothering you. Like, why are you having sleeping disturbances? Why are you avoiding crowds? Why are you avoiding confrontation? Are you irritable or you have outbursts of anger? Why do you have outbursts of anger? When do they happen? Someone that really digs deep and they're like kind of feeding you the information, but then it triggers you to do the homework and be like, oh, I see now.
Yeah, and every therapist has their own style too. So it depends on your personality and what works best for you. I really don't like therapists whose like solution is always medication and
oh hell no,
and trying to give me the answer that they think is correct. I find that highly annoying.
Right.
And it's actually one of the reasons why I don't open up to everybody. I don't like overly positive people. I don't know.
That's so funny.
I hate it. I hate it to be like, oh, I just broke my leg. Well, at least you have another one. Shut up. Like, my uncle, he lost both of his legs in Vietnam, and like I don't want to hear your shit. So because of that, I have maintained where I don't really open up to very many.
I can't even laugh. Stop it.
I hate people like that, or like anything could be happening. Oh, Jesus has a plan. Thanks. And I got that. I got it. I think.
I'm sure he does. But right now, I'm pissed.
Right. Like, shut up. Like, let me indulge in whatever anger I got going on. No, I hate that. I hate overly positive people. They drive me nuts.
Oh, I got hot inside.
Not because they don't leave space for you to talk.
No.
They just don't. So it's like for example, I fired a therapist last year in July, I think, or June. But basically, I was going through a really low time, and they had prescribed antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication and whatever. And I'm anti-medication. I am more like, give me a routine and let's work this through type of person. Anyways, so I was telling her that I didn't want to take the medication or anything like that. And she was just like, well, if you're not going to take the medication, then perhaps you just need to start thinking better thoughts. And then here's the thing about me. Just as I'm laughing right now, I laugh at people when they come at me with sideways shit.
Right.
So of course I bursted out laughing.
Right.
Did
you hear yourself say that out loud?
Yeah, and the doctor just stared at me and I said, absolutely, you are correct. I have no idea.
She said, absolutely, you're correct.
And so, because of that way, I'm pretty sure that like 75% of my interactions with people stare at me like, this bitch is crazy. Because I just laugh. Like, it's so hard to get underneath my skin or to attempt to budge me. Because I've been through so much shit that is just, to me, so much is laughable that I just don't even care.
Oh my God.
It's kind of like, growing up in the Bronx, you get toughened up, right?
Because, for sure.
Other kids talk shit about you, so you got to talk smack back and whatever. So when I joined the military in boot camp, a lot of that is mental, like verbal and mental abuse in order to get you to strap in, as they say. And I would laugh at about 70%, 75%, if not 80% of the fucking shit that they would say. It was ineffective to me because I found it hilarious. Which goes to show to you the type of trauma and bullshit that I had in my brain. That at the age of fucking 19, I'm sitting here laughing at somebody telling me that they're gonna fucking burn my blood toasty and shit. Trauma. There were people crying, fearing for their lives, and I was laughing.
Oh God! Here we go. I would have loved to be a fly near that station.
I got punished so many times in boot camp. It was so bad. That's why I got out of there so soon and just suffered because they kept punishing me and punishing me and punishing me. And it was because a lot of the stuff I just found it hilarious. It was ineffective with me.
What? Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, bro, Kevin from 3rd grade did better than you.
Is that the worst you could do?
And then I'm Dominican, and you know how Dominican parents are.
Oh my God!
Like they will fucking get so creative with cursing you out.
They murder you. Dominican parents will tell. You.
Oh my God! Like for example, I still remember the first time I learned what an embeleque means. Oh God! Right? And I only learned that word because I took a trip to DR. I think I was like 15, and we were there for the summer or something like that, or 14. And anyways, we get into this little back and forth with these little girls, and you're ugly, and look at your nappy hair, like one of those. And this kid, I snap back, and I'm doing good because I'm like, todo fue tan bien, right? But then one of the guys on the other side says, "Ay, y tú pareces un embeleque," and everybody laughed. And I was like, "Pero ¿y qué le hago un embeleque?" And just to put it into perspective,
give
the hairstyle that I had really matched the fucking insults.
Oh my God!
Because yo tenía dos moñitos aquí con los dos lacitos, and then the rest of the hair was down, so parecían 4 flequitos. And so I go and I said, "Mom, ¿qué es un embeleque?" And she was like, ¿y dónde tú escuchaste eso? Digo yo, un muchachito me dijo que yo parecía de un embeleque con el cabello así. Y ella dijo, adiós, un mojón con 4 flecos. Oh God. And I couldn't stop fucking laughing. So I'm like, bro, when you grow up in a culture like that, and like you grow up in the Bronx, like half of that shit is just ineffective. It's not really You know, like I could think of like 500 other fucking insults that are better than that one. So because I would laugh, I got in trouble a lot. Yes.
I can't even.
Yeah, it's the same reason why superiors yelling at me or getting in my face about shit also was ineffective, because I'm like, you're just yelling. My mom used to beat the shit out of me. My grandma would drag me down the fucking road. So whatever the fuck you think you're doing, you're not. It's not working on me.
It's not phasing me.
No.
I got beat with trucker belts. Please, let's be serious.
Right? Like, oh, what is this? Is that a feather? Oh. How cute. How cute.
Crazy. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
For sure. It sometimes it comes out for me. Like I try to, I realize my trauma does come back up for me. And when I talk to them and they piss me off, and I'm just like, you are lucky. You are. And I'm like, it doesn't make a difference to them, because no matter how much you paint the picture for them, they don't understand. You're never gonna feel the effects of it, because I'm never gonna go there.
Yeah.
So, but it's major key. Like it's real PTSD. Like I hear a slap of a belt, I'm like, oh, I'm getting my ass beat.
Yeah. And because I know that I laugh at so much messed up stuff, it's also the same reason why I hold back when insulting people. And a lot of people don't understand that the reason why I hold back is because I know that I could say some shit that'll probably make you want to kill yourself.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I'm like, let me not
go there.
I'd rather just take the high road, because I know I can take whatever you're gonna say to
the
me.
Jugular. I'm going for the jugular.
Yeah. So like, for example, in my whole debacle here, my own personal situation, the current wife of my ex-husband is attempted to attack my body and, oh, you're ugly and you're this and you're that. And I just started laughing, because I'm like, yo, what is the obsession with having to talk about me in front of my daughter? And I was like, none of this phases me. I was like, and so I chose not to insult her back. And I basically told her, hey, it's unbecoming of a woman to put down another woman. Specifically, it is mentally degrading for a child to hear another parent speak about the other parent. So that's not okay. But I understood that this woman has low self-esteem issues. So her calling me fat and ugly and all this other stuff, somebody like me who it does not affect them, because you can call me ugly all you want, so I am not ugly. I can tell you, I can pull every gender you can think of. I am just not that. You could never make me believe that I'm ugly. That's one. Two, I'm overweight. Okay, my body has done shit that only you could wish you could fucking be doing. Shit that you see motherfuckers doing on TV. My body has done it. I have a great appreciation for my body. So I know for a fact that for me, it does not hurt me at all. It just does not, right? But I know that she has a low self-esteem. So if I would have came back and I would have been like, listen here, you 8-year-old fridge looking like back built square, then, you would have had a problem, because now you would have felt bad about yourself. Right? If I would have been like, oh, you're talking about my nappy ass hair, but you got about 3 flequitos up in that bald ass head, you're going to take it personal, because you have a problem.
Just saying, if you were going to say something.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, so I do hold back like really, really hard, because I'm like, I understand that if I open my mouth and I pointed you out to you, you would for sure be hurting, because I can see that you have low self-esteem. See, I may have like issues with myself because I'm like, oh, I'm not as strong as I used to be. I'm getting older and stuff like that. But other than that, you could never make me believe that I'm ugly in any way. Like, it just won't work. It just doesn't. So that's like, bro, like, you should never try to come for me when it comes to insults, because if I chose to destroy you, I could end you.
I could end you.
I'd rather not.
And it's so true. Like yesterday, I was on a call. I was on a potential mentorship call, and he asked me this question, and I was just like, and I feel like I should have answered it the way I'm going to answer right now. And I didn't think of it in the moment, but I'm just like, I've never had a quit attitude. I've never had a like, I'm going to let something get to me. Now, can it like can it weaken me for a little bit? It can, because I'm human. but I just don't have it in me because of all the shit that I've been through. If I gave you a book of my life, you probably would not be able to walk in my shoes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and not for my own account, because I think that honestly, the things that I've been through have been very hard, but because they're norm to me, it's like, bring it, bring it, you know? But to someone else and other people that see me and know me personally, they're like, girl, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you've been through all that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so that's the thing. That's what you're, basically in essence, what you're saying. Like, you can't let people really penetrate your circle, penetrate who you are, the essence of who you are and what you've done, and who you are as a person internally and physically. Because they don't know the shit that you've been through and the hardship and how strong you are and how your measly third grade joke or insult is really not going to penetrate me, because baby girl, when I tell you I've been through the trenches, I've been through the trenches. And therefore that's not going to hurt me. Now, if you want to hurt, that's why I can't either. I mean, I don't know that I know firsthand. I mean, not firsthand because she's ever done it to me, but I know. And I feel like I'm a curse. Can I curse on here? I think I can. I could be a dick if I wanted to. I want. Now, the dickery in me is not as high the dickery level is very low because I'm such a good-hearted person and kind. But I am also a Capricorn. And if you know anything about signs, I don't know a lot about it. Like, you know that Capricorns are like, it's either hot or cold. So the dick comes out real fast. It's not like,
I keep myself at bay. I keep myself on a leash, and I have to reel myself in, because some of the shit that'll fly out of my mouth is just like, so I'd rather not.
Yeah.
So that's why I find it funny when people are like, oh, how come you didn't say this or you didn't say that? I'm like, sweetheart, if I came back at that person would probably crawl on a ball and die. I don't have the same mental issues that they have. So I'm okay with taking whatever they decide to dish out.
Sure. They don't have the know-how, and and it's not no jobs. We're not saying it in a way to like job at anyone, like people weaknesses. It's not that our job to prey on the weak ever. It's not who we are. Jamie, in essence, is actually a really sweet person. She pretends that she's my She pretends. At least for me, like, how some people that they're really, really hard all the time. Jamie's on all the time. She's on all the time. But there's always that like few people that they're like teddy bears with. It's like, if you haven't gone to our page, it's called at Instagram, the Aces Club podcast. It's going to be below in the description. Go ahead and click on it, and you're going to find a video of us talking about the clouds. And when she looks at the clouds, I'm looking at the same cloud, and she loves it. Because I'm the smushy one, and she's just like the, oh God, here she goes. Here she goes again. But she low-key loves it because it's coming from me. Heart.
Yes. Anyways, our episode today. I hope you guys have enjoyed the conversation, and as always, don't forget to seek out mental health. Anything, therapy, a hobby, a group, a support group, anything that'll help you progress as a person. Bye.
I'm back.